Yes, he did.
Donnybrook is made possible by the members of the 9 Network.
It's debated this week in South Carolina. They're all talking all over each other. They didn't listen to the moderator. Good things that doesn't happen around here, huh? Hey, let's talk to, welcome to Donnybrook. Let's meet our panelists for this edition, starting with the media veteran herself. She's Wendy Wiese from the Big 550 KTRS, where she's the news director. From the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, he's Mr. Bill McClellan. From the Riverfront Times and his own radio program weeknights at 9 on KTRS, Mr. Ray Hartmann. And, of course, Mr. Alvin Reid from 590, 97.1, the St. Louis American and STLmag.com. Enough said, longest business card in the free world.
All right.
And
if I could get a real job, I could knock some of those off.
Hey, thanks for everything. And we're going to start with a topic that kind of surprised me, Alvin, and that is that apparently there has been an agreement among some governmental agencies concerning the security of MetroLink. Now, there are some issues yet to be resolved. Will 18 police officers from the county patrol MetroLink in the city? Will St. Clair police officers do the same in the city? One thing that surprised me is that the security guards will not be armed. And that announcement was made this week when, of course, a police officer in Maryland Heights stopped a shooter at the community center there, perhaps preventing lots of damage. One woman was killed. Fortunately, more were not. Do you think the timing's kind of bad on this one?
Well, no, I kind of feel like, and first, you know, I'm sitting next to, you know, Crockett from Miami Vice here, and he was always armed. Mr. Styling here. And I would just assume that they carry a gun on the MetroLink. Now, I don't think they should be carrying a gun because something happened in Maryland Heights or because St. Louis is just this crazy, dangerous place, just because there was no security. So if we're going to step up, and I know that just an individual who is there part of security is a deterrent, but I think we need to start with an armed individuals, and wherever it travels. And like I say, I don't care if it's police, I don't care if it's private security. I don't have a problem with them carrying a gun. I just don't.
I agree, and even though, according to the experts, people don't feel the need for a weapon, they just feel the need for increased security presence. If you are confronted by somebody with a gun, what do you do? That is not going to that is not going to instill a sense of confidence in potential MetroLink riders.
I'm sorry. I think it will, Wendy. I mean, I think just having uniformed people, even if they're not carrying on the train, walking from car to car, I think that helps a great deal. So
I want to agree with Mr. GQ. The study was, and as soon as you say study, everybody goes nuts.
Yeah.
But these are experts in Iraq, and what they said was real clear, and it was stop having untrained people who are not police officers pretend to be. Before the study, they had guns and drug-sniffing dogs. It may be that we need uniformed police officers, real police officers on the trains and on the platforms. You could make a case for that. But we do not need unarmed Metro non-trained people carrying guns.
You mean armed? That's what you're saying.
No,
we don't need armed.
We don't need Metro. What we need Metro security people to do, which they haven't been doing, is take tickets and be friendly to the passengers and have a visible uniform presence on the trains. And we need more police officers on the platforms.
The thing is this, Ray, and you wrote a great column about this, including an interview with the woman who conducted the study. She's based in New York, and she said, you know, this is how we're doing it around the country. The security officers don't have firearms, and yet in other parts of the country, you have concealed carry permits, to carry any firearm, you have to have a permit from the sheriff or the police. That's not the case here. And I think that these security guards are going to be the only ones on the train without firearms. That's the way we are living right now in the city of St. Louis. In our urban area, the populace is heavily armed. So then you're going to have security guards who don't have arms?
Now, first of all, I disagree that the populace is that heavily armed. But
I agree with that.
I don't think that.
I
mean, I don't know how many people. I'm not packing. I don't know
this
that.
year.
What?
We've had the 100th homicide.
No, I understand that, but
this year,
the last thing we need is untrained security officers.
Well, they got to be trained. They got to be trained.
Well, but then, I mean, my point is MetroLink is not a police agency, and they shouldn't be. And so my point is MetroLink's security people, and I keep saying it, I'm not talking about not having armed police officers at the platforms. Maybe if we can get enough police officers, put them on the train. But that security people need to just do things like take tickets and walk up and down and be there with, as you said, the uniforms.
There are lots of places I go where they have hired private security and they have a gun. And it's not open to the public.
I get it.
So I'm just saying, like, well, if I'm the public, I'm thinking, like, well, I really don't think he has any, or she has any, they're not going to shoot me. I don't care they have a gun in case they have to shoot somebody.
Well, a lot of those people you're seeing, Alvin, not on MetroLink, of course, are police officers working secondary.
That's what I mean. Right.
And you know, and I don't think MetroLink feels they can afford that.
Well, and also, we don't need people having shooting-ups on the train. I mean, if you've got a problem with somebody, if you have folks on the platform that are police officers, somebody's acting up, there's going to be a stop that you can get off the train. Can you imagine people starting shooting at
Well, that's
people
exactly what
on the
happened at the
train?
Maryland Heights Community Center.
Well, I'm just saying,
I mean, sometimes you need a firearm to stop
But
an
they're
assailant.
not on a little train. I mean,
That
it
was
was
a little
one, by the
community
way,
center.
that police, that security officer was a hero, by the way.
Yes.
He was,
No
and he was a
question about
police
that.
officer.
I get
Yes,
that,
he
but that's
was.
not the same
I
as putting
think
them on a train.
ridership would increase if they said every time you get on a MetroLink train, there will be somebody on there, security-wise, that's
protect
armed.
you.
I think ridership would go up. And
Okay.
isn't that what we're trying to do?
Let's go to Wendy. Speaking of transportation, in the state of Illinois, they're talking about increasing the speed limit to 75 miles per hour on the highways outside of urban areas like East St. Louis and Chicago. Springfield, I guess, would be excluded as well. Do you think the Illinois drivers have displayed proficiency in their motorist skills to the extent that they can increase the speed limit?
Well, in Michigan, in 2017, they increased the speed limit to 85 miles an hour. Or was it 75 miles an hour? Pardon me. It was the same. It was the same increase that they are proposing in Illinois.
75.
75. Yeah, 85.
You wish.
That's like a jet.
Autobahn.
But all of the fears were not realized because they did have them in stretches where people were driving more safely than they do in an urban area where you're not going to have safe drivers. So people were petrified with fear, terrified about what was going to happen when they raised the speed limit, and nothing bad happened in Michigan.
I'm concerned about going 75 because they go to 80 in Oklahoma. And that's what we got to do is go to 80. No, but I don't. It's like I remember when they went from 70 to 55.
Yeah.
It's going to help, which we really do need to do something about the environment. It didn't work. I mean, it just didn't work. And I think 75 is
Actually,
fine. I don't think it's
Well,
fine. And
especially
I'm sure there's a good safety and environmental case against it. But in the real world,
You know, if you go to 75, and I'm for going to 75, that's fine.
But then they ought to
But the
enforce
truth
it.
is, if you go to 75, you're really going to 80.
we know you're going to
85.
85.
Everybody
83.
always tacks on that extra 5 miles on the
Guys, I'm
highway.
telling you, I disagree with all of you because I think with the faster speed, you have less time to react
You're probably
for
right.
someone stopping in front of you. Also, you can't repeal the law of physics. The metal traveling at a faster rate is going to cause more damage when it hits something. And I honestly just don't think that today's, like another car, today's drivers really are the worst. They're texting. They're, I don't know, changing the radio from 550 to 1120. Actually, that's a good thing. But they're just, I don't think they have the proficiency to drive faster.
That was actually.
They can't even use their
well
blinkers.
played, Mr. Brennan. However, I like to believe that if they are driving at a faster rate of speed, then they know that they cannot be adjusting they can't be liking things on Facebook or putting on their mascara.
Well, right.
So I'm
I wish that were the
I
case.
make the drive from here to Chicago pretty often now because my daughter's in school there. All right, there's the stretches where it's 70 miles an hour, okay? Now, at first, I said, like, all right, I'm going to do my 5, so I can drive like 75, 76.
You're doing 8.
People are, like, running me off the road, looking at me like I'm crazy as they roar past me. So now, like, I set it to 80. Is it like every third car is still passing me.
Yes, that's
so
true.
I just think that, people can handle it.
Charlie, I think you're actually right on this issue, but I think that in the real world, people that pretty much uniformly, police don't ticket under 10 over the speed limit. That's usually where
that's
they
what
ticket.
I'm banking on.
And I think that one thing to do potentially is for if the patrol wants to start ticketing at 5 over something. If you want to,
that's what they do in Oklahoma.
And
I know that for a fact.
That makes some sense.
Because I was going 85 and I got a warning.
Yeah.
And I think it's because my 2 little daughters in the back.
No doubt.
Okay.
All right.
No,
So moving on.
Yeah.
I had that experience.
This is our transportation day because our third topic is also transportation. Let's go to Lambert Field, Bill McClellan, where this week the East-West Gateway Council of Governments was studying the possibility of They wanted a regional study of the governance of Lambert Field. It was actually proposed by Steve Ellman, the county executive in St. Charles County, but it was shot down. And I think it was shot down after people found out that former St. Louis Mayor Vince Schamel had written an email that was discovered through a Freedom of Information request from the NAACP. And in this email, he said, well, we might want to look at changing the structure of the airport, and to do that, we might have to orchestrate some ego stroking of the black aldermen and take them out to dinner. And Louis Reid, the president of the Board of Aldermen in the city, who is African-American, objected to that language, and the proposal went down in flames. What did you make of this?
Well, first of all, I like Vince Schamel, and I like the idea of a former mayor giving advice. I mean, that's what old guys are supposed to do. Not run things anymore, but give counsel. I'm surprised that Vince would put in an email that kind of thought. That's more the sort of thing that you might say to somebody. Well, why don't you take somebody out to dinner and just hear what they have to say instead of getting on the email and phrasing it like he did. So, but I like the fact that Vince stays involved. As far as the idea of the East-West Regional Gateway, whatever they are, studying it, that's what they do. They study things, and I think the city ought to welcome that, because the city, has to be careful, of course, but the city was thinking of selling the airport to private people, so they ought to look into the idea of what will you give us, St. Charles County, Jefferson County, St. Louis County, if you have some governance involved in this, because the city could use the money, and I think they should at least be open to having this thing studied. I
agree with Louis Reid, and I'm like you. I'm stunned that he didn't realize that Mayor Schamel and most everybody has with the exception of Louis Reid, very favorable opinion of the former mayor. He's kept his fingers in everything over the years because he obviously loves this city. But this is highly offensive. I mean, highly offensive. If he had said something similar about the women if he made a similar remark about Megan Green, or that would have really, lit up everything in this woke era that we are living in. I have to hand it to Mayor Cruzen. I think she made some really terrific points in terms of, okay, if we're going to be looking at Lambert, then let's also look at Mid-America and Muscuda. Let's also look at Chesterfield. That this appears to be a land grab, that everybody wants the city's property, but, we're not willing to really pay for it, at least from all outward appearances. And let's look beyond just Lambert.
First of all, I would like to know first who tipped off the NAACP to this email transaction, because they ain't come up with that. I'm sorry, God, that somebody had some agenda. So that agenda pops out. over the last 5 years, who has been more condescending to the black community than Ben Shamel? You know what the top of the list is? Louis Reid. Okay? So I'm looking like, well, Louis, you can't play the, black card every now and then I'll go right back to going against everything in the black community pretty much wants to get done. All right, so there's all kind of players trying to get all kind of things done, but it still comes back to the fact that regional control of the airport should be looked at, and this should not stop that from happening. Was Vince out of line?
See, to me,
absolutely.
To me, Louis Reid, and I'm not a black woman, but
you're not?
That seems to be the mark of a leader, to be selective, to pick your battles. But hey, Louis, you went this way on that. On that, but not right, but not not this. Yeah, I can hold it. Yeah, I got you.
Vince Shamel has not been mayor of St. Louis for 27 years. Okay? His email, while ever wasn't his best moment, and people can have a right to be offended. I mean, I don't think it was a good email, but that can't be the reason either for or against regional, the substance of whether we're going to look at a regional consideration of the airport. I do think that my fear is when you bring in we've got to be really conscious of this trend in Jefferson City to want to impose its will, a la Better Together, was that we've got to be very mindful of that. And as far as, I think on one hand, Steve Altman looks good that he wants to be involved. I'd like to see the second and third issue involving the community that in St. Louis, other problems that he's interested in
like
being
homelessness
involved.
and stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'd like to see him involved in something other than a billion-dollar asset.
Right. There's a lot of things the city can say, but this is what we want.
But the logic of a regional plan is that you do, it's not our only airport. There's a bunch of airports, and looking at all of them working together makes sense.
I don't know this for a fact, but I think Mid-America is like the separate counties over there do have like I think a say on Mid-America.
Well, Mid-America is not nothing. I mean, that's part of
Good enough, Ray. Let's move on to another topic, another important one. First one that's not transportation, I think, and that's felons. The governor.
Why are you coming to me?
Well, you know something or two about these things.
Yeah.
Mike Parson, the governor, is not sure that he wants felons voting. And some states allow it. Some states, like Missouri, do not. Some states you can be in prison and vote. Right. Some states you can vote when you're on probation and parole, but not in prison. Some say, hey, once you get out of prison, you should be able to vote. What do you think about St. Louis?
I think when you've done the time, you should be able to vote. I mean, once you're out, if we've declared you, and to me it's irrelevant what crime you committed. If you're out, it is. In other words, if you're out, if the crime is not so serious that if this crime, I don't think you should be able to vote from within prison. Okay, but I do think that once you're out of prison and you're in society, you should be able to vote.
I think if you're on parole or still on probation, technically you're still serving your sentence. You're just serving it outside of prison, and if you do anything wrong, you'll go back to prison. I can live with until you're cleared. All right, then you can vote. I will throw in this caveat too. A lot of energy is used on people who are in prison or out of prison, and I'm speaking of the black community. And I've always kind of thought that for 99 probably 0.5% of the people that have gone to prison probably deserve to go to prison. And I am not saying we should turn, collective backs on them, but boy, like you were saying about Vince and maybe getting involved in other issues, how about we put this much energy into some other issues? I mean, God bless you that you're getting out of prison, but golly, it just, I can't get worked up over that you can't vote until you're off probation or parole.
I think that once you get out of prison, you should be able to vote. I think that after you've finished probation and parole, you should be able to have your sentences expunged. I mean, we want to do whatever we can to help these people be able to coexist again in society. I think voting from prison would be a bad idea, just because I could see guys in the prison getting together and some guys saying, I'm getting out next week, everybody vote for me, I'm going to run for mayor, and all of a sudden you have some guy getting out of prison and he's suddenly mayor of Potosi. I mean, it doesn't sound like that part doesn't sound like a good idea.
I'm like, I have to look into that.
Right.
Jamil and Rashid, though, she got rid of the part of the proposal that was going to make it okay for violent offenders.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. I know that it incentivizes somebody who is on parole or probation to stick closely to the terms of their probation or their parole, you know, when they know that they will be able to have that right bestowed again.
I don't know, Wendy. Do we really think that? I mean, maybe closer to Alvin's point.
Drug dealer.
Do inmates or people who are released really care about voting at all?
Maybe
Yes,
they do.
I think
I don't think they do.
The whole point, we've got
I
to
mean,
get...
the general population doesn't vote, Ray. When you take a look at like, the
that's
most
up to
recent
them
mayoral
if they
election.
don't want to vote, but that doesn't mean they should never vote.
But is it a real issue? I mean, do we have guys who are out of prison who are really hoping to vote, but they're not?
How can you generalize like that?
Because I don't see any interest in the general population
I'm not
voting.
talking about
then
the
they
guy in
won't
the
vote, then it's not-
drive-by shooting who's a career criminal who's thinking, oh, shucks.
I don't
got
think a
50
guy in prison wants to vote.
But Charlie,
I think you're right.
They want to be regular citizens once they get out, Charlie.
They want a job. They want family.
they want
They
a
don't
job.
want to vote.
How do you-
Oh, sure, Charlie, if they
If they don't want to vote, they won't
They won't
vote.
vote,
So
so
don't
that's
worry
not-
about
It's
it.
not an
I think
issue.
that is a
That's
really
what I'm
big
saying.
issue.
No one cares.
What's a bigger incentive? You're making it sound like, boy, I'm going to do right and not go to prison, so I go back to prison so I can vote. How about I don't want to go back to prison?
Yeah, right.
Well,
right.
that too,
All
but
right,
they've
let's
got a
move on.
vested
Wendy, we're going to
interest.
stick with you. Speaking of
Nothing burgers.
gas blowers, leaf gas leaf blowers.
Five of them sitting right here.
Yes, exactly.
We got five, A new name
those
for
are
the
gas
show.
bags.
Blowing gas. This is an issue in Illinois. Again, back to the land of Lincoln, where they're thinking about eliminating gasoline-powered leaf blowers, which are noisy and they emit pollutants. You're in favor of getting rid of them, right?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, of all of the environmental catastrophes that we read about day in and day out, when I think of the landscaping companies, you know, the small landscaping companies that really do they provide an enormous service to people who are crunched for time. They have little babies and
I don't mean to be laughed at.
no,
They do provide a great
but they
service.
do provide a great service. And to go after these folks, $500 they're talking about fining these people, I just think it's absolutely ridiculous. Let's take care of the oceans. Let's take care of oil spills a la BP that disappeared off the landscape in about a week. Nobody talked about it after a week or two.
I think you
but
got-
yeah, let's go after the leaf blowers in Illinois.
It's not a matter of going after them, but I think we've got to get serious about the environment. And I think that doing things that start at home, I don't have a problem. Now, I think you've got to have an accommodation for people that are in this business to transition to something other than a gas blowing thing. But I don't have a problem with the idea of trying. You can't keep saying it's somebody else's problem. So I'm not going to criticize them. I do think you've got to
Do you put
economically.
the polar bear, like the the brown furry
think
polar
anything
bear
we
on
can
his
start-
little tiny decreasing iceberg
I-
up against the little leaf blowers in suburban?
Wendy, the reason I was laughing at you, Wendy, is I went home today and my wife had hired somebody to come over and clean up our yard.
See?
And they were using it.
It is a
I let the
service.
leaves
Excuse me.
I run the double extension cord all over my yard, but the only reason I do it is because, like, man, those gas ones cost a little bit too much, you know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
to say that you cannot use these is like...
They're coming
it's
after our
really-
hair dryers
and by the
next,
street,
and our
by
can
the way,
openers.
the guy across the street has a lawnmower from 1945 that's like belching out just pure death. Okay,
Right.
and like, oh, he's fine because it's another
Sure,
Pleasant
sure.
Valley Sunday.
But you know,
at
this
Airport.
shows me, if this society can't even get rid of the gas leaf blowers, God help us trying to change the environment to prevent.
No,
What
we
is
will,
so-
we
what
will
is so
eliminate.
bad?
No.
No,
Charlie,
we would eliminate
there are
global
you can
warming
have
before we
electric-
would eliminate that, because that is like a little
no.
thing, and it gets the leaves out my yard.
You can have an electric leaf blower. The point is, if you
Right.
don't do the little things,
Right.
you can't expect, oh, well, we'll let somebody else deal with this. I don't have a problem with it. Again, I think you have to accommodate for people in the short run whose businesses
Okay.
need to be accommodated, but not for
That's probably
You know,
a
it's
billion-dollar industry.
If you
gas
someone's
blowing.
gonna have to-
landscaping.
Hey, Kate, here's the deal,
They
folks.
didn't ban
Ray and
landscapers.
Alvin, it's a special occasion because with about a minute to go in the show, we want to recognize the heart and soul of this program, and she's the director of the
She
program,
is.
Anne
Yes.
Marie Berger, who is celebrating a
We
great
do.
birthday today.
And
I'm
by
not
the
sure
way,
if it's
these
equally
were-
divisible by
these
5,
were
but
not
it's an
lit- these
occasion
were-
we have
these-
to
those are for
These
now.
were
acknowledge
not
people.
lit by gas.
Wait.
These
Oh,
were lit
yeah.
by a.
What are they? Is she 4 years old? What is it?
She's burning some carbon here with these candles, but she certainly deserves
Happy
happy
birthday.
birthday. Many happy returns. Where would we be out? Where would we be without
be lost.
Anne Marie Berger?
We would.
Lost.
Hey,
Is
that
she
looks
not coming out to
delicious.
blow
It
these
does.
out? Where
Are you
is
gonna come out, blow them?
Where is she?
Why don't you come on out while we? Oh, she's directing the show.
She's directing the
Oh,
show.
so
She's gonna come on
can't
out,
she
blow
put
the
it on
candles while we
automatic
tell you what the viewers had to say about last week's
You
program.
can't put it on automatic.
I'd like
Here
you
we go.
pinheads.
Can anything be done with the fireplace in the background? It needs some mortar between the bricks on the upper far right side. It bothers the heck out of me. That from Carolyn Pullman of St. Louis. Deborah and Bill Teague wrote, we were pleased that the Your Turn for February 13th was available and live streamed. Hope it's available next week and the following week as well. We really enjoy both Donnybrook and Your Turn. Ann Miller wrote, Wendy is right on target, saying the perception of crime and danger in downtown St. Louis negatively impacts arch attendance. All attractions in downtown St. Louis would benefit if potential visitors felt more confident that they would be safe! Exclamation point. Dennis Hogan Miller, there's a picture on your wall of the Rams. Isn't it about time to replace it with a picture of the Battle Hawks? Mr. Miller lives in St. Louis County. You can write us care of KETC 3655 Olive Street 63108. We love those emails, letters at ketc.org, and those tweets, hashtag DonnybrookSTL. Don't forget to listen to us on your favorite Spotify, Apple, Google Play, TuneIn, or other podcast news source.
By the way,
Bill?
I was going to say, Wendy, this is Wendy and I for you guys.
Bill's taking credit for this. Typical member of the media. Is Wendy going to blow out, or is Anne Marie going to blow out these candles? There she is. Anne Marie Berger. You know her, you love her from
Of the 9 Network.
And I am 4. I am.
Spring is in the air. I can actually feel it is on the way, and I am so excited to be doing Your Turn tonight with not really so much Bill McClellan as Bill McClellan's sports coat, which is really getting a lot of buzz, is it not?
Well, it's a grown-up sports jacket.
it's
you know,
a-
my usual fare from the outlet mall in San Marcos, Texas.
That's right. That's right.
This is a grown-up.
That's grown up. Very fashion forward.
Bought it for me.
Very
here-
fashion
here
forward.
in St. Louis. So.
Well, we had a lot of terrific topics, and now it's your turn. So let us know what you think. Where are we going to start, Bill?
Let's start with Jay from Normandy.
Hi, Jay.
Yeah, hi guys. First of all, on the first topic that you all talk about the police officers on MetroLink, as the Maryland Heights shooting, terrible that it was, revealed, it's the police officers that go into the danger zone. They're the ones that take on the shooter, the bad folks. So, the MetroLink security thing, maybe Ray's right. There even a presence of some kind of person in a conductor type of role might be a good thing, quasi-security, but it's really the police officers that handle the real deal. So that's number one. Number two, Wendy. I know what you said about polar bears that are in trouble. It's about 75% of the mammals and other animals in the world population that are going to be threatened or extinct with global warming and climate change. And I think we need to do everything we can about it. They've come out recently with studies that showing methane gas emissions are worse than they ever were. And new studies are coming out every day about how much we're in trouble on this issue. So climate change or climate disaster is really a factor, and everything we can do, and get those noisy things off the lawns anyway.
I absolutely agree with you. I think climate change deniers are going to deny themselves out of existence. I'm just saying that of all of the factors that we need to address, to me, the leaf blower is not too high on the on that list. But you make a great point, Jay. We're glad you called.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go to Lou from St. Charles.
Hi, Lou.
Hi, Bill. Hi, Wendy. Wendy, you make a very good point. However, I think we shouldn't underestimate the power of the leaf blower to destroy our lives. It's really bad. The noise, the pollution. I couldn't believe it when I first saw a leaf blower. I mean, I thought, you can't even rake your leaves. You can't even pick up your leaves. You can't even, sweep your leaves. You've got to have a noisy machine for that, too? White man?
Well,
black man, whatever, any man.
Right. I hate raking leaves. I mean, I don't mind cutting the grass, shoveling snow. I don't like raking leaves, but I know what you're saying. I come from a time when we used to burn leaves. Remember that?
Those were the good old days.
It was the smell of autumn was of burning leaves, and I think that's a bad thing, and I'm glad we've done away with it, and probably doing away with the gas blowers will be akin to stopping the burning of leaves.
I think you're right. Lou, you sound like you have a young lower back. Call me when you're a little bit older, okay? Suddenly the sound of the leaf blower probably won't be as offensive to you, but we're awfully glad you called. Thank you. Let's go to David in Creve Coeur. Hi, David. Welcome. You're on Donnybrook. Your turn. What's on your mind tonight?
Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
I had just an observation that there seemed to be a little bit of a disconnect between the panelists, excuse me, regarding climate change. Early in the show, they discussed raising the speed limit to 70 miles an hour, or 75, I suppose it was, and almost everyone was for that, with the exception of Charlie. But when we talk about the leaf blowers, then all of a sudden people were against the leaf blowers. And I just thought that was a bit of a disconnect, that we want to let people go faster on the highway and burn more fuel and release more emissions in their cars than the leaf blowers, which are noisy and annoying and do produce greenhouse gases.
That's a great point. Very inconsistent.
I want the record to show, though, that I was wrong. I was just consistently wrong in your mind, right, David? Because I was for the raised speed limit, and I was pro leaf blower. So I'm wrong, but I'm consistently wrong.
I was on the inconsistent side.
You were on the inconsistent side,
favoring
yeah.
raising the speed limit, but not in favor of the gas blowers. So, David, you caught us.
You
caught me
really
anyway.
did. You caught all of us. Thank you, David.
Yeah, thank you very much for that call. Bill from Rock Hill. Hello, Bill.
Hi, Bill.
Good evening. By the way, Bill, that outfit you have on is very democratic. It does nothing but clash, but that's not why I called.
Well, Alvin told me,
Yep.
he said, you might not know it, but you're down.
He is down.
And I thought, well, how about
He's so
that?
down, he's up.
But
What's
that-
on your mind, Bill?
Well, with regards to MetroLink security, I would much rather have somebody on there packing heat that is trained. Now, there's nothing that says they can't properly train the security guards. There's licensed security guards all over St. Louis that carry a gun. Many of them are off-duty police officers. I know I personally, and this is sort of related, but like I had interviewed for a job on Loop Trolley, believe it or not. One of the reasons I decided I didn't want to work for them was when they told me they weren't going to have licensed security guards, licensed armed security guards, or off-duty St. Louis police officers on the trolleys providing security. I'm like, never mind. And that wasn't the only reason why I walked away from Loop Trolley, but believe me, it was a big part of the reason. And as somebody that's on MetroLink almost 5 days a week, I'd much rather have some extra arms on there, because the people that cause the crime, they don't care. They'll shoot at anybody because they're so caught up in, what they're doing that they have no thought whatsoever to whoever else they might hit with their gun. Not to mention they're usually bad shots.
It's interesting, though, to me, Bill, that you would have even thought of that, because to me, the safest, you'd be as safe as in your mother's arms on the Loop Trolley. I mean, I don't think of that as being a high crime vehicle, or hotbed of criminal activity. Maybe, did you ever see people who looked suspicious on the Loop Trolley? I was never a pass.
A couple of times I rode it. I did not. But here's the problem. It wasn't necessarily Loop Trolley itself. It's the neighborhood around it. You get immediately north of the Loop, and the neighborhood declines rather rapidly. And even within Loop Trolley, the east end of the line from Delmar Station down to about Pershing is not near as good a neighborhood as once you get past Delmar Station. I've spent a lot of time in the Loop, and they have had their fair share of problems over there. I'm very much concerned that one of these days the Loop could become the next Gaslight Square, if you know what I mean.
Yep. Thank you for the call, Bill. It's always good to hear from you.
Right. Let's go to Tom from the city.
Hi, Tom.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Hi.
My wife and I love watching your show.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
I'm calling about the speed limit in Illinois. I think if they raise the speed limit to 75, I think they really need to enforce the left lane is for passing only.
Good point. Good point.
That is a good point.
It's so dangerous when somebody is going, not passing, and is going slower in the left-hand lane, and people are passing on the right, and there's cars coming into the highway. That's a great point.
That is a good point, Tom.
I hope they do enforce that.
And I hope you have the concessions for the signage, because they're going to need a lot of signs. But yeah, people who are not passing, like you said, Bill, I always sort of hearken back to something that you said a long time ago. It was I was coming into Donnybrook, and I was criticizing the way everybody was driving, and you said that your rule of thumb was pretty much, if you're criticizing everybody else's driving, you're the one with the problem, right?
Well, something like that.
Something like that. Paraphrase.
You've cleaned up my language, Wendy.
But it's something like that. But it's really true, Tom. Thank you very much for the phone call.
Anytime.
And the pearls of wisdom. Let's go to Carrie, also in St. Louis. Hi, Carrie. Welcome. You're on Donnybrook. Your turn. Speaking to your phone.
Did you say Carrie or Terry?
Carrie.
Well, Terry.
Yeah, it's Terry.
Okay.
It's Terry.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's Terry. Yeah, we're also calling about speed limits.
Okay.
I'm trying to. One of the things that surprised me is you didn't mention the benefit of having a 75-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Which benefit is that?
Yeah. Why do you need to increase the speed limit? As opposed to what you have to pay to get it.
Well,
if you have the 75-mile-an-hour speed limit, you'll get there marginally faster.
Right.
However, your car is optimized to get its best mileage between 60 and 65 miles an hour. You're driving at 75, you're consuming a lot more gas, bad ecology. You're riding in the living room So you're not paying attention to your driving, so you are definitely less safe. I don't see the upside that offsets the downside.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, it's just a little bit of getting a little farther or getting to a place a little quicker.
I think it makes us feel better, right? Maybe.
Well, but that's a good point. You know, although we kind of had that debate years ago with the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, that, you know, hey, for a 100-mile drive, it's not that much longer.
Right.
But it seemed longer to people.
Yep.
But, you know, the facts are probably on your side on this one. So thank you for that call.
Thank you, Terry. Let's go to Wayne we're switching from the city to the county. Hi, Wayne. Welcome. You're on Donnybrook. Your turn.
Hey, how you doing?
Fine, thank you.
I don't know what the ultimate verdict was on the question of whether or not one that had been in prison should be allowed to vote. I always thought it was the ultimate civic responsibility myself. I've been voting since I was 18, and I'm half of 10 times that age now. And you know, you think about it. You think about what's going on nationally, and all the white collar crime, all the pardons, and all of, you know, people getting out.
Right.
You know, if they have some status, to, you know,
right,
to keep a person from voting, you know, and performing their civic responsibility, I think it's a little silly. Just think about it. I think it's really a little silly. And thanks a lot. You guys do a good job.
Wayne, before you go, I agree with you on that. But how old are you? I missed that whole thing. 18 and
81.
81. Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
We
Wayne.
need help with the math sometimes, Wayne.
Yeah, it's
all right.
Thank
like
you.
Yeah, mind twister.
When somebody has served their debt to society, when that is complete, then they have paid what they owed, in the words of Stephen King, and let them do what the rest of us get to do.
And I think they should also have their records expunged after a couple of years.
Yep. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you very much, Wayne. Hey, we go to 3 tweets. Why don't you handle those?
I'll be
Wendy?
happy to. At Yale Hollander, wait, if the security guards on MetroLink, technically, they are trained. Good point. Good point. At Holy Star 77, I believe that even in prison, you should be able to vote. Given that minorities are disproportionately imprisoned, who generally don't vote for the GOP, is it any surprise that Governor Parson opposes nonviolent felons having voting rights restored? Shameful. Thank you, at Holy Star 77. At Woolen Dog Hairs, you people with your Twitter handles, you should just mow over leaves and mulch them so they decay into your soul. What a waste of good fertilizer to rake them up or blow them away. And your tweets also welcome. Hashtag Donnybrook STL.
You know, just let you know, I do put the lawnmower on mulch when I cut my grass, and it doesn't make the leaves go away. Maybe the fault is with my mower, but at the end of the fall, there they are, laying there, just, you know.
Yeah.
So
they're mocking you. Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Mocking you.
Okay.
All right. Let's go to Phyllis in St. Clair. Hi, Phyllis. Welcome. You're on Donnybrook. Your turn.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
Thank you for calling.
I just had a quick thing to say, and that is steel makes an excellent leaf blower that is powered by battery, and you don't have any exhaust, and it's very powerful. So that was all I really wanted to tell you.
Thank you. I'm pretty sure that might be the one that my husband uses.
Well, that's a great point. I mean, that would solve many of the problems. Thank you, Phyllis.
Thanks, Phyllis. And that's Steel, I believe, STIHL is the name of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to Mike from Arnold.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Wendy. And hi, Bill.
Hi, thank you, Mike.
Watch your show all the time. Thanks very much. I really like it. And Ray's my hero.
Okay.
He's ours, too.
About the leaf blowing issue, I just couldn't help but kind of correct you, Wendy. The two-cycle leaf blowers that most of these guys use is a worse polluter than cars.
Really?
Yeah, you don't see catalytic converters on those things, so they're spewing
Good point.
pollutants right out. I switched all of my lawn tools over to electric a couple of years ago. Work a lot better, and my hearing's a lot better now. So.
Wow. The $500 fine, do you think that that's excessive for a violation in Illinois, or do you think that that's in line? I just think
I'll let somebody else take care of that. I'm in Arnold, so.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for.
It doesn't affect me, but. I think you should do whatever it takes to change people's mind about how they're polluting.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
you very
Thank
much,
you.
Mike.
Yeah, can you imagine a leaf blower with a catalytic converter, what that would cost? That would be a pretty expensive leaf blower.
Well,
gasoline
the
powered.
previous caller
The
talking
battery?
about the battery powered.
Battery
one. That sounded
operated.
pretty good.
Yep. Thank you, Mike.
Let's go to Orlando from St. Louis.
Hi, Orlando.
Hello, first-time caller.
Welcome.
Long-time watcher. Just wanted to comment on Governor Mike Parson not wanting people who have paid their debt to society to be able to vote. And I think that once a person pays their debt, that they should be given their citizenship back. Once upon a time, there was a wide receiver named Bob Hayes who actually broke the 100-meter dash here in St. Louis. This gentleman was not allowed to vote for a conviction that he had after he quit playing professional football. And another thing, I've been watching the TV commercials on Mike Parsons, and there's no people of color in them.
I have not seen any of those commercials, but I will look for them now. And that's very tone deaf in 2020. And, obviously I think with Missouri being Missouri and a very red state, and I think so many of the governors do try to cater to that outstate voter, but to do that, and exclude the cities, whether it's Kansas City or St. Louis, that is very short-sighted. I'll definitely look for that, Orlando.
Very insightful,
very
Orlando. I
astute.
haven't seen many commercials.
Very
Thank
astute.
you very much for that call. Let's go to Sonny, also from St. Louis.
Hi, Sonny.
Hey guys. Big fan of both you and the show, except Alvin. Don't you think that airplanes are just really big leaf blowers? And maybe we should, just shut down the airport. I'll listen to your answer. Also, I have the coronavirus. Bye-bye.
Bye, Sonny.
Okay.
Don't be a stranger.
Okay. Well, I think, with leaf blowers, Sonny, there are alternatives. With airplanes, there's no way to get to a place nearly as fast without flying.
Unless you're driving 75 or 80 miles an hour.
That's a good
then
point,
you're
Wendy. In Illinois, I guess so.
Then you're flying. Well, thank you, Sonny, and we hope you feel better.
Right.
Let's go to Ron in Augusta, beautiful Augusta. Hi, Ron. Welcome. You're on Donnybrook. Your turn.
Hey, guys. Good
Hi.
show, like always.
Thank you.
Bill, I really do love the jacket.
Isn't
It's
it great?
Thank you.
It is.
Thank you.
Hey, what's with these people thinking that an electric leaf blower, I have an electric leaf blower, but what do they think? The electricity comes and the power comes from happy thoughts? I mean, we run big power plants that charge the batteries that make the power for the leaf blower. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. The electric is power just like gasoline. I have a question for Bill.
Yes.
Bill, you made a comment. I think I understood you right. You're defending ex-Mayor Shamel about a negative comment that he made about black folks. and you said it's okay for him to think it or say it in private, but don't put it in an email.
Well, okay, keep going.
Yeah, do you see where I'm coming from here?
I do.
It's like, it's okay to think it, just don't say it. If that's the way the guy thinks, when an uber conservative or a guy like Trump says something like that, we barbecue him. But when Shamel does it, it's different. I don't get it.
Okay, well, but my point on that was I don't think that Mayor Shamel was saying something generically about black people. Like, I don't think it was racist. I think he was talking about a couple of some people on the Board of Aldermen who he felt that the people on the East-West Gateway should wine and dine, and it would help them with these specific people. I don't think it was a generically racist thing. I thought the former mayor was ridiculous to put it on an email. I mean, I think in this day and age, we have to have developed filters by now that something that you might think or you might even say to somebody, you have to look at before you put it on social media and think, is this what I want out there with no context? And so I was surprised that the mayor put it out there. I wouldn't be shocked and dismayed if he were to talk to somebody and say, if you're going to get this through the Board of Aldermen, you're going to have to take some people out and wine them and dine them and
stroke their egos.
I didn't think that was offensive. I think when it was put on an email and no names mentioned, just a couple of black people, then I think it looks more offensive than it was. And I might be seeing that through the lens of another old white guy, but I do give the former mayor, a little bit of a break on that. Ron.
And the benefit of the doubt.
And by the way, I was in Augusta just a couple weeks ago. I really enjoy your time.
So beautiful,
Right.
so beautiful. And for what it's worth, Ron, those of us who have known of him, known him even in a peripheral sense, he would absolutely say the same thing. He would say that about anybody. He would say, take so and so out and do the ego stroking. He would say that regardless of the race of the person.
And he'd vote to censor himself. I mean, just like he did on the school
like
board.
he did.
When he called his opponents brown shirts.
Right.
So intemperate for certain, but that's part of what you get with Vince Shamel.
Thank you, Ron, for the phone call.
Right.
Let's go to Tony in South St. Louis. Hi, Tony. Welcome. You're on Donnybrook. Your turn.
Hi, guys. Always enjoy your show. I got a comment about raising the speed limit in Illinois. All it's going to do is mean less tickets, because when I come back from Belleville heading towards St. Louis, a lot of times I'm doing almost 75 on the highway anyway, and there's always somebody parked on my bumper trying to make me go faster, and it's making me wish that I had James Bond type of appliances on my rear end so that I could use something to make them get off my backside.
Or the Batman, like the helicopter that just suddenly lifts you up. We've been there. We've been there, Tony.
And rude drivers are going to be rude drivers. You take the speed limit to 55, they're going to be on your tail. You take it to 75, they're going to be on your tail.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I wish I thought there was some way to stop that, but I don't.
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah, thank you. Jerry in Jeff County.
Hi, Jerry.
Hey, how you guys today?
Fine, thank you.
I got a question for Bill. It's about the ex-cons. Once they get out, he says their records ought to be expunged and they have the right to vote and everything. Okay, if their records are expunged, then that means that everything is clear and clean, right? Their whole slate.
That's true.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, I just got a hypothetical case. What if a guy shoots and kills 3, 4, 5 people? He cuts a deal. He goes to prison for 4 or 5 years and he gets out. Then his record's expunged. does he have the right to go out and buy weapons and stuff again then because his record is expunged?
No, I would say no, and I don't think a guy is going to kill 3 or 4 people and make a deal and get out in a couple years. There might have been a time when guys pled guilty to murder and did 7 years, but these days with truth in sentencing, you have to do 85% of the time. But it was a good question. Thank you very much.
Have a great weekend. Thanks so much for watching.